Hi, everybody. This is 1,187 days since Richard was, well, since the code red had escalated and he was murdered. That's, and it could be a few more days. We're really going through the timeline with everything that we have. And because all this new information coming up and the institutional support we need to give accurate information, as accurate, we have so much evidence now, circumstantial evidence now, evidence of irregularities, all the stories, and we're just trying to, it's so much that we trying to go through and make sure that everything is correct so that we can um, get accountability, you know, get accountability. That we won't, because the retaliation against us has been so severe. So that's why it's been so important to do these live streams, because we have evidence now of the statements that we've made, uh, the whole process of this investigation is all documented. And the more that we document, the better, because we are genuinely, honestly trying to find out what happened to our son, where he is, where his remains are. We're not trying to cover up anything. We're ready to hear about our son. We're ready to hear about this dirty agent. We're ready to hear about what Dallas Hart did. We are ready to hear about what Tavita Nusa did, and Lonnie Hart did, and James Hart did, and many others. We're ready to hear what inspired, or maybe they were threatened, what Belen Rocha did, why she did it. We know why she did it. We and Danae Katzen, why she did what she did, um, to obstruct justice in this case. Why did Angela Kucherga um, seem to think it was necessary to obstruct justice in this case? What kind of skin in the game does she have? Or does she work for someone that has skin in the game, right? I mean, it's very clear that there has to be a motive behind the obstruction of justice on so many different levels. Why did Major General Clem Coward do what he did with the Gomar? What kind of relationship did he have? Maybe with Belen Rocha, maybe with Danae Katzen, maybe with the CID, maybe with the criminal activities that are going on. What motive did he have to retaliate? Because it is a fact, it's hard evidence that he retaliated against Richard the whistleblower, the CID intern whistleblower. So that is that's a fact, and he allowed Richard, even though Richard was already going through a chapter 14 from Major General Clem Coward's retaliation, unjust retaliation, a waterless waterboarding. The general also allowed Richard to be put through a field grade Article 15 that was unjust, with maximum punishment and then some. And Lieutenant General Sean Bernabe didn't have Richard's back, didn't have the service members back at all. Participated in the cover up. He participated in the cover up. Withholding the information that Richard was with Park University, taking CID related courses, and CID intern, whistleblower, all of that information was not given to us. It was withheld, and absolutely Lieutenant General Sean Bernabe had that. And he could clearly, just like we did, even without that information, clearly look at Richard's record and know that something was very stinky. And he did kind of admit to it when he saw that Richard was made in the 45 days of extra duty, um, subjected to the humiliation of being reduced 3 ranks, 50% of your pay, and just all the bad language, the bad attitude, that kind of bullying, humiliation. Okay, you got to have thick skin, right? We've been bullied, we've been retaliated against, we've had pretty thick skin. Um, but to wear full body gear, battle gear, to wear full battle gear in May and June in El Paso, 45 days of extra duty, um, even he had to flinch. Even he had to admit that that was extreme, that was severe. But the whole thing was severe because Richard never committed a crime, never committed a crime, never did anything that they could never ever, even in the letter that was meant for not a good intention really, to point his finger at me from Captain Park, because he didn't even address my husband. um, it really has been very, very helpful because it shows what what their intentions were at that time. And he's culpable. As a West Pointer captain, he should know better. He should be well versed in esprit de corps, and dealing with these young soldiers. I mean, that's his job, right? That's his job, is to take these um, young, green behind the ears recruits and turn them into a disciplined fighting force with esprit de corps for a love of the country, to defend the Constitution, the land, and the people. That's what he's supposed to do. And yet, in the letter, that's clearly his attitude is the opposite of that. Clearly, he's pointing his finger. He doesn't even know how to deal with the family of a missing soldier, especially the mother of a missing soldier. And he had to bold typeface all of the allegations against Richard that he then admitted in this letter, um, were nothing, were nothing. He had nothing, but he still deemed Richard guilty, you know. And here he is, a West Pointer, defending the Constitution, and he doesn't even get "you're innocent until proven guilty," and that there's no proof, then you're innocent. You're innocent. You're not guilty. And Richard has no record at all, none. The federal criminal database, he's never been entered in there. So that means he was never ever labeled a deserter. He was never designated a deserter. So that corroborates what we claim, that they had the remains of Richard the whole time, or partial remains. We believe they only have partial remains of Richard the whole time, and they have designated him died while missing, and then deceased. Also, homicide seems to pop up quite a bit in the information that we're getting. Let me make sure I'm on Facebook. I should have done that earlier. Make sure I'm live. It looks like I'm live. I just came back from a beautiful walk. And I added a little. I see everybody. Thank you so much. I went on a beautiful walk, stargazing, and we have a beautiful moon out. It's a waxing moon. It's about half waxing moon. Perfect timekeeper. The stars and the moon, especially the moon, is a perfect timekeeper. And this was something that kind of came up in all of this. People have asked me, have you gotten Richard's remains? how long is this? How long is that? Um, do you know where the locations are? Do you know who the suspects are? You know, uh, all of that. And a big part of this is the time chart and you know what happened on what day. And I can tell you that it's super super important. Time is super important, and it's a gift from God. It really is. And the moon is proof of that. And we received information. This is kind of like breaking news, but we received information that in February of 2020, there was kind of a realignment in Delta Battery 143. Yeah, little realignment there with platoon leader, with first sergeant, and it's very interesting because we've had this accusation that there was weapons smuggling going on, and that Richard was blowing the whistle on that. Um, so we're starting to get some hard evidence about those incidences. Of course, we have hard facts when it comes to Berlin and the CPS accusations that Richard turned in CPS complaints. We have his videos of that. We have her statements on that. The CPS has broken the law. They have not honored the FOIA request, but I think that that's a matter of time, right? Because we are getting institutional support, and they will have to give us the Child Protective Service complaints. We believe that there is at least 3 of them that Richard made in this case, and so they'll have to give they'll and there's a lot of tampering with files, but everything has a time stamp. So just recently in a case, somebody tried to make a false insurance claim, and what they did is they were like, "Oh, I got robbed, and it was over $2,400 or whatever, and here's the things that got robbed," but the pictures that were taken had a timestamp on them, and the insurance agent was like, "What do you took these pictures after the incident? That means you still had these items. How were you robbed?" Right? So, in little things like that, you can determine what is the truth. You can catch lies and that. So timestamps are very, very important in determining if things were tampered with. And this whole Natalie Holloway case, 18 years, that family has been working hard, especially the mother, in trying to find out who murdered her daughter in Aruba. And she knew who it was. She knew who it was. It's just that she needed to get institutional support. And you know what it took? It took the murder of another female. It took the murder of another female to get institutional support. And we're not, even though I think people have been harmed since Richard went missing in so many ways, because, and I really put the blame on Lieutenant General Sean Bernabe on the mess in Fort Bliss, like the 14-year-old girl. I think that is really, really important. The 14-year-old girl living in the barracks, being prostituted out. If he was really a general, if he was really a general of the service members, of his soldiers, right, of the defense of the Constitution, the land and the people, he would have wielded his power as a general there on Fort Bliss. If he was not a political animal, see, this is what they are. They're political animals. They need to get out of our uniforms out of our stars. They need to be stripped and then put some a fur coat on them or whatever, so we'll know that they're a political animal, right? Because what they do is they come and they put on our beautiful uniforms, and they even lie when they take the oath, and say all these creeds, and they get on um, their platforms at these events, and they tickle everyone's ears with all their sweet words of the Constitution, but yet behind the scenes they're just political animals. And you know if he was truly uh, uh, genuine as a general, he would have absolutely gotten Richard's remains back to us. He would have absolutely gotten the accountability, cleaned up Fort Bliss, um, and demonstrated to the service members there that they don't have to shake anymore. They don't have to shake, that he has their back, that he has their well being in his mind, and he's determined to be their general, not a political animal. But he's not. He he's not their general. He's not Fort Hood's general, Fort Cavas's general. He's not. He's a political animal, and we are paying him as a general, not a political animal. And so I want to make that very, very clear, because when he was there at Fort Bliss, the same thing with Major General Eisenhower. If Major General Eisenhower was a true general, the commanding general of Fort Bliss, he would absolutely get Leilani Hart banned. She would be arrested. She would absolutely be arrested for all the damages that she has done on Fort Bliss, which would mean that he was protecting the land and the people there of El Paso too, right? And the border, because by clicking the hills together, by demanding and getting James Hart out of that position, I think, well, when we get to the bottom of this, so many of these offices will be cleaned out of the um, the criminal operatives that have invaded our institutions sneakily with this HRC. There has to be someone in HRC, Human Resources, that um, that placed these people in these positions, because it is not a coincidence that you have a dirty agent leading the CID at Fort Bliss. Then you have James Hart leading the Medical Health Board for disabled veterans' disability benefits. Then you have um, Thomas Kane being the DES and the chief of security of Fort Bliss. Then you have Ann Ogle of Child Youth Services. Then you have um, uh, those that are in the IG, those that are in the JAG, those that are in the chain of command. And when those get confirmed, Major General Clem Coward working with Leilani Hart, and then you have uh, the uh, the relationship between that those leaders and Park University, and also the law enforcement there in El Paso, the defense attorney that connects all of this. And we're about to, we have enough evidence now. So I think this week is going to be a big week on that one, because of this revelation in black and white from the law enforcement agencies, giving us that support that proves, hard evidence that proves that CID special agent in charge of Fort Bliss CID office, Marlon Soto Hernandez, is a dirty agent. He's a dirty agent. And also, this whole FBI thing connection too, because he kept on saying, well, I'm FBI, we're CIDs like FBI. He kept telling me that over and over again. And, you know, so I just think all of these positions and who is getting these jobs, who is allowing even the ones working underneath them, like the Rochas, like Amber Chase, like China Goodwin, like um, all these Laura Stevens, like Chris Martin, like all these people that are connected to this case, but up to no good, right? Up to no good, because they tried to pass on false evidence, manufactured evidence to us, lied to us, smeared our son, um, have not given us the documentation with the signatures to prove what they were saying, and we gave them every chance the first year, every chance to come forward and tell us what happened. But no, it's kind of like this Natalie Holloway, the lying, the Vander, whatever his name is, coming in, and she was even paying him money for information and stuff. Um, gosh, it just so many things uh, are similar, and it's these very people. Even though she knew he was stinky, she knew everything led back to him. Um, it's like Dallas Hart, being on the phone with Dallas Hart, and he has told us he never heard of Tavita Nusa, never heard of him. That's just, oh, really, really, you never heard of him? I don't buy that. I don't buy that. And when he came back, now we have proof of this. When he came back from his deployment, which corresponds with the timeline, he ran over to his mom's house to look for child pornography, right? To look for that child pornography. He didn't want to leave it behind, or maybe it was him and his father's. This is the information coming in, and because of the allegations, they were trying to clean everything out and hide things and whatnot. So this absolutely has to do with child pornography and being sold to the soldiers, the production of it, the distribution of it, and also selling it. And then this also has to do with the weapons smuggling, and we have, you know, uh, uh, real connections with that and evidence with that. And so, with more of the support that we're getting, um, that will all come to light with the gunsmith, with those that were stealing American funded weapons, ammunition, um, equipment, and smuggling it out and selling it and pocketing the money. Um, yeah, that is huge. So, you know, did Richard know about that? Was he complaining about that? Did he turn people in for that? Were there arrests for that? Our information coming in is yes, there were arrests. And because of those arrests, because of his whistleblowing, because of his arrests, the retaliation kept escalating and escalating. It started and it escalated and it escalated. And yeah, and there is this common denominator of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. So please God, let not the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints have been part of this and profiting off of the child pornography, the weapon smuggling, the human trafficking, because we absolutely know there's human trafficking, child sex trafficking, because out of the emergency intake center, 85,000 unaccounted for minors. Okay, they had to shut it down. There's been several, okay, of these, and we know about them from different sources, from Congress, from all of their research that they have done. It's right there on Fort Bliss. Um, do not tell me that our military, with all of the resources that we have given it, with including 44 four-star generals and admirals. World War II had seven four-star generals and admirals, with you know so many more service members, and now we have a very small military. We can't even get recruits in, and we have 44 four-star generals. So we give them everything. We have $33 trillion in debt to prove it, which is another, are they smuggling all these funds? Because our military now is facing another war, and they don't have the equipment, okay? They don't have the equipment that they should have. And sure, you could see some equipment there, but it's not a $33 trillion military, okay? It's not the state of the art military. And they need the equipment. And I'm going to probably break a little bit of news here with my personal beliefs, because I was born at White Sands. I was born at White Sands. My dad was missile repairman. So I have this history of being attached to the ADA. Okay, that's why Richard even went ADA, because of my dad. So, and you see that in the pictures of their closeness. Anyway, so I'm gonna. This is my belief. It is not the majority of belief out there, I guess, but it's my belief. I don't really believe the whole nuclear weapon story. Okay, I don't. I just don't believe it. I think it's a lot of. I believe that there's a lot of weapons. I believe weapons hurt. I believe wars hurt. I believe that they have these drones. I believe there's much more dangerous weapons out there, and brutality, absolutely. But I don't believe in this whole nuclear weapon thing. I really don't. Um, I've just thought about it so much, and looked into what happened in Japan, where they dropped it, so many years ago. And our leadership is just so evil. I don't believe, um, you know, I don't believe the narrative of that. Um, and that shows you somewhat of my personality to question the narrative in so many ways. And so when Belen Rocha wrote us, when Jay Paulin wrote us, when the dirty agent Marlon Soto was talking to us on the phone, and the generals were calling us and telling us things, and then people online were telling us a lot of things. Um, you know, I I don't challenge them, but I don't just agree with the narrative. Okay, I absolutely did not agree with Jay Pollin's narrative. He was one of the very first people that we were chatting with that I even talked to on the phone. I didn't agree with his narrative at all. I knew there was something wrong. I knew that he had not been trained to respond in the way he did, so that painted guilty on his forehead to me because of his response in our phone calls and in our chats. And um, when we got to Fort Bliss, he didn't even come to meet us the whole time we were there. Okay. And we were there for months, months, and he never came once. And we were holding rallies 4 to 6 times a week, and he never came once. And so I knew that his narratives painted guilty on his forehead. So, I really believe he had something to do with the murder of our son. I'm just going to come out and say it like that because I didn't fall for, I wasn't rude to him. He wasn't rude to me. Um, but I knew what he was saying was not what a normal first sergeant says, not a trained first sergeant says. And so, I did not believe. Um, and I'm on the record. I have live streams with the whole COVID. Um, Absolutely, I did not buy it at all. I did not know exactly what was going on, but I did not buy the narrative. I knew that this was a fear mongering. And, so that kind of shows you a little bit about my personality. And I think it's because with the history that our family has, we're careful to lockstep, right? We're careful to lockstep. And I've said that many, many times. We don't want a lockstep. And, and that shows you why, I guess, a good reason, a good personality reason why we decided to homeschool our children, even why we decided to adopt. It's not the normal thing to do. We had experiences, and we felt like that was something that we really wanted to do. And even though a lot of people around us at the time, even some that we really respected, thought that it was dangerous for us to adopt older boys, um, being 7 and 5 years old, almost 8 years old. Robert was almost 8. But we just don't always, even though we respectfully listen, we don't always agree with the narrative. And so we absolutely have not agreed with the COVID virus narrative. We do not agree with the virus narrative. We don't agree with the germ theory. We don't agree with the Darwin evolution narrative. And that shows you a little bit about our personality. We do not believe um, Jay Pollin's narrative, and at this point, we absolutely know that he is a criminal in this whole thing. Okay, I'm going to tell you that right now. We know that Captain Park, is a criminal in this whole thing, and we absolutely know that Dallas Hart is a criminal in this whole thing, and Leilani Hart's a convicted criminal, and so. And she just inserted herself. I don't know if Dallas called and said, "Hey, Mom, I need your help." I don't know if that was the case, um, but she inserted herself, and she might. Well, I think she was part of this criminal. This was a family business, right? Family business, including so many others, and so this whole Natalie Holloway, um, listening to uh, that story, and I really need to call her mom and talk to her mom because what you get in the media is so different than what you get from the family, and yeah, so many similar situations like in ours, and they had victory, and I'm very, very happy for that family because it took a long time, and they don't have her remains. They'll never get her remains. I don't believe they'll ever get her remains. Um, they're supposed to be in the ocean. If he was telling the truth, who knows? Um, but this whole warmongering thing going on right now, um, I just think people need to take a pause when they hear the war drums beating, when they hear the threats um, of nuclear weapons, like your skin's going to come. The same thing with the virus. They make it so horrible, um, and it is scary. But I think that we should put on the full armor of God, go forth in the full armor of God, and there's no guarantee that everything's going to be safe all the time in our life. And, so uh, to live in the love of God, in the joy of salvation, all of those beautiful Christian uh, truths that we know with the full armor of God. It never says be fearful, live in fear, shake. And this was something that we absolutely saw even in the highest ranks when we went there. The shaking, the absolute fear. There's, from every side, all of the arrows were a fear mongering from the bombs, from the leadership of retaliation, of the abuse of power, right? The abuse of power to the service members, um, and to this COVID narrative. And we had been on the phone with Richard, and, he was never raised to be in fear. He was raised to fear not, for you're never alone. I'm always with you. Put on the full armor of God. You are a soldier of the cross. Uh, don't be ashamed to own his name. Um, these were the things that he was raised with, and a lot of joy, and real freedom. Don't get into debt. Don't get into debt. Watch, live within your means. Work hard, because there's three ways to get money. You earn it, you inherit it, or you steal it, right? And so we have a huge part of our population um, that likes to steal it, you know, and they're not being held accountable for that, because the worst ones are like in the Federal Reserve Bank, right? The Federal Reserve Bank, they're all about stealing the money. Inflation is all about stealing from people. The Congress, Washington D.C., they're all about getting over on us and stealing from us. Um, and so that trickles down, that leadership trickles down, and then people get desperate. And I'm going to tell you, a lot of people in this case have filed for bankruptcy, and I'm not saying that's a bad thing. There should be debt forgiveness, right? That's a godly thing, is debt forgiveness, and it should be to all of us a debt forgiveness, um, you know, and regularly, and that would keep people from entrapping us in these credit card bills with these very high interest rates and all of that, right? You'd think, oh, how could debt forgiveness do that? Well, you know, that would be an economic lesson, but that is something that we were telling Richard. Don't use debt. Don't use debt. Work hard. Don't get into debt. You're not a slave. You're not a slave. You need to be a free man. And a free man sometimes has to live under their means or within their means to be free. To be a free man doesn't mean you drive this fancy Pearl C-Class Mercedes. That's not a free man. If you're in debt and if you have to commit crimes to have that vehicle. Um, so this is how we raised Richard. He went there, and I think it was pretty overwhelming for a young man to see the level of criminal activity and the level of fear. And, that's why I kind of say my beliefs a little bit, um, because of all the fear that we witnessed when we were there. And with this talk of war, um, I just think we need to take a pause. Know what don't believe the narrative. Try to research it first, um, to get a little bit more information before we start blowing up things, blowing up people. Um, I think we've learned our lesson with Iraq. We've learned our lesson with Afghanistan. We've learned our lesson with so many of these failed wars, that, I was just sent a little video where President Biden was saying, oh, in Afghanistan, we're not going to be, picking people with helicopters off of a roof or whatever. And sure enough, that um, exit out of Afghanistan was such a disaster. It was so shameful. Shameful. A disaster. Uh, Loss of life, right? Criminal loss of life. But the political ramifications of that is so deadly too, because then we look so weak, that you see what's happening. You have the thugs coming out, those that make money off of war, and they're coming out and causing a lot of trouble. So I don't know. I'm just not very afraid of, someone's going to say, oh, until you see a nuclear bomb. What happened at in Japan, right? Hiroshima. Um, I have my ideas of what happened there. And I don't think it was, or even Chernobyl, because when I was in Germany, my good friend, she would take in the Chernobyl children for the summer. And, did a bomb explode? Yeah, yeah. But all of a sudden, there's trees, there's birds, there's insects living, all the flowers are growing, whatever. That's a very different from what they tell us what a nuclear bomb does. So I'm not denying that there are bombs. I'm just denying the narrative around these mother of all bombs and all this stuff. They just are, it's just so profitable. War is so profitable. They love it. They absolutely love it. And it's the most horrible thing in the world. And, so I understand defense. I'm a military brat. I understand defense. I want a strong defense. But just war theory, right? Just war theory. And that's why we supported um, Ron Paul, because he was one of the few politicians that would talk about the just war theory, and that if we marched in, we could march right back out. Um, and he, gave peace a chance with diplomacy, and um, yeah, I just think we need to do other things in life. And I'm telling you all of this because these are all things that we discuss in our family with Richard. Um, and be patient, give time its place. So many people have everything. A very smart friend's mother told me, people have everything. They have dishwashers, they have cars, they have this, but they never have time. They never have time. And I'm like, yeah, that's exactly. Give time its place. And if it works for Natalie Holloway's case, now I don't think it's going to take 18 years. I think we have moved we're moving 100 miles an hour. And I think it's going to move at the pace of 1,000 miles an hour after this groundbreaking week, and with all the evidence that we have. And when the law enforcement is now giving us support, um, things move really quick. So we appreciate all of your support. And one thing that we don't want to do is fearmonger. And, they've tried to intimidate us. Even like yesterday, they were trying to intimidate us, these nasty people that are involved in the murder of our son. Um, they've done so many things behind the scenes, I can't even tell you. And I don't want to give that time, right? But I'm just saying, you are going to face, just like we have in your life, um, people that want to make you afraid and control you by making you afraid. And I think, I just want to say we stand with you to be courageous. And we're not saying that bad things won't happen. Bad things happen because bad people do bad things, and it hurts innocent people. But you know, this murderer in Natalie Holloway's case, he murdered again before they did anything, and that woman's life could have been saved if they would have done their job. And in our son's case, we have this dirty CID agent now, and that dirty CID agent was backed up by a dirty general, a dirty general. And, you know, that is something that we need to get, they need to be held accountable, right? Because we don't want another murder. We don't want more suicides, more people taking PTSD medication because they're living in fear, because they're shaking. I'm telling you, Command Sergeant Major Jakovitz, and he probably is still shaking because he has a conscience, see? He has a conscience. He's not a cold-blooded person. Um, he's a jerk. He's an absolute jerk, and he's culpable in this case, okay? He's culpable, and he's going to be held accountable. But he was shaking. Shaking. Oh, my gosh. And the whole experience that we had with that, and he thinks, oh, I've got to do this for my family. No, you're picking the wrong thing to do for your family, because living free is sometimes he should have chosen that tractor he had. Maybe he has that tractor because of you know uh, other things. I don't know, but he was shaking in fear. There is no doubt in my mind he was shaking in fear. And the same thing with the paralegal, and the same thing with Brigadier General David Stewart. Um, this was so stressful for him, and oh my gosh, they locked his heels to um, become a monster. And he has a beautiful family, and to see him turn into a monster, and he did. He turned into, the last time I saw him, I'll never forget, I was mesmerized by the change in him. I already knew the other ones were monsters. Um, but I was mesmerized. And I want to say this, General Stewart, you chose the wrong way. You chose the wrong way. They forever altered you. Uh, it was so apparent that they clicked his heels together and twisted and turned his ears, his muscles, his whole demeanor, everything. He was so altered uh, compared to the first meeting that we had with him. And it was like, wow, uh, very demonic, very demonic. So this is a spiritual war. And that's why I'm telling you all of this stuff today on a Sunday. After our, we just had a beautiful day and looking at time. Um, do not let them alter you. You know, I know during these 3 years, we're human. Doing this day in and day out, it gets exhausting. Um, but God, praise God, He's given us so much strength, and so much support. And uh, I'm gonna have to write a book on just God's hand in all of this, to glorify God in all of this, because um, this latest with the black falcon and the peregrine, um, code names and stuff like that, how that all came out, and I haven't really talked about it too much. I just mentioned it now, but it will come out. And just the amazing insight, the amazing help, um, putting very special people uh, in this case to move forward. It's just so amazing, and I just think um, if I would have cowered in fear, I would not have had the privilege to witness um, the unbelievable blessings of God's support in all of this. So I just think, oh man, Stuart, you're just such a nice. He was such a nice guy at the beginning. I'm not joking, and they just twisted and turned him. He was so altered, and just think of all the blessings that he missed seeing, um, because he crumbled in fear and let them alter him. The same thing with Command Sergeant Major uh, Jakovitz. Now, Jay Paulin, he's just up to no good. Um, yeah, he's just up to no good. But I never met him. I just talked to him on the phone. But I didn't buy his narrative at all. And the same thing with Captain Park. Totally up to no good. Any man that can write a letter like that is up to no good. Absolutely proof of his character. Please, women, do not marry him. He'll let you down. He will. So, yeah, let me read the comments now. I'm just talking without any notes, reflecting, I think just reflecting over the amazing week that we had. Uh, with, I cannot tell you, um, everything that we knew was confirmed. Everything that we knew was confirmed about Dirty Agent Soto. And now there's more information that's going to come out, but it has been confirmed that he's a dirty agent. And that is, and we have it in black and white. And that is a huge jump forward. A huge jump. So, oh, Joran's dad was a judge in Aruba during her disappearance, so it seems it may have been a corrupted investigation, possibly. Oh, yeah, absolutely. It was a corrupted. That's what I'm saying. All of this seemed so. Because where is Judge Robert Shook, right? Where is he? As soon as we sent those two requests for open records for what he did at the JAG, right, in Richard's case, anything to do with Richard, um, he disappeared. He went up to, they got rid of him. And this is after he had made himself um, clear that he had a future in El Paso. His future was in El Paso until we sent that request. And all of a sudden, boom, he disappears. So this is very clear that this has been tampered with. And I even put a TikTok out today. Just conservatively, this is a conservative estimate of our numbers of our accounting, $9 million to cover up Richard's murder. 9 million. Okay, that's conservatively because it includes Mexico. Because it includes Mexico. So just a lot of things going on there. But and we're working um, because we have that support now to get a research on some areas that we want uh, searched again. So that is something that we're working on too. Yep. Prayers for justice for Richard and praying for you and your family. Yes, Jordan's friends told the officers he did something to Natalie, but no officers would listen to what was said in the beginning when Natalie disappeared. There's a documentary on Natalie Holloway, I believe. Yeah, I'd like to, especially now. I think that, you know, because I watched I Am Vanessa, and I was told by my very, very good friend, I even count her as my sister, um, to watch I Am Vanessa, and I said, I don't know if I can do that. I don't know if I can, if I can stomach that. And she was like, "You need to do it. You need to do it." And I'm so glad because this is like right after Richard disappeared, right after it came out, and soon after anyway. And I believe it was before we were still in Sarasota, right? When we watched I Am Vanessa. And I'm so glad that we did because the courage of that family is what encouraged us. I'm going to say that very, very truthfully. Their faith, the faith of the mother, their courage, what they were doing, um, that is what encouraged us. And so it was not just okay, this is who I am. Um, they gave us direction on what to do. And so right after we watched that, we looked at each other and we went and we bought ourselves a bullhorn. We started ordering signs, making signs, everything. Um, and of course, we knew what we were going to do when we got to Fort Bliss. Because of the responses that we were getting from Fort Bliss, talking to the generals, talking to CID, because they threw us out, right? Um, they were so unwelcoming to us, and we didn't know what we were going to do once we got to Fort Bliss. We knew that we had IDs and that we could get on to Fort Bliss, but we didn't know what to do. And watching I Am Vanessa gave us a plan. It gave us a plan. And I don't know if I should say that publicly, but I do. And I think that sharing your story is really, really important. And I think the media has so much power. They can inspire us instead of fearmonger. They can really inspire us to become more than who we are. And and I will be forever grateful to the Guillen family for inspiring so many people, not just us, but so many people. And also for, I think it was, who was it? It wasn't 60 Minutes, it was something else that aired, aired that I Am Vanessa, so I'm very grateful for that too. Um, anyway, because we got so much information in those months that we lived in El Paso. And, that is a possibility for the future again, to go there again. We will see. we can make the arrangements. We were always planning on going back, and then my father got, you know, very, very ill and passed away, and all of the things that go along with that. Um, but we are definitely thinking about going up and visiting D.C., uh, visiting Senator Ted Cruz. Um, and I think that that is becoming closer and closer to reality because of what happened this week. Because we don't want to just use our resources, we have limited resources, to go and just meet, you know, um, and nothing gets done, nothing gets accomplished. We want, we're hoping for that congressional inquiry hearing, right? For the congressional inquiry hearing, that would be, definitely a reason to go to D.C. So that's in Ted Cruz's hands too, and also in Representative Veronica Escobar's. And if she really cared, which I don't think she does at all, but I hope she proves me wrong. I hope she makes me eat crow. I will gladly, gladly apologize to her if she puts this forward and helps the service members at Fort Bliss, um, and helps us get accountability and closure for Richard's case, because at this point, very easy to do. But she knows the defense attorney. See, she knows the defense attorney. She knows the dirty agent. She knows the dirty agent. She knows the dirty defense attorney. And, so it is, uh, El Paso needs to get cleaned up. Fort Bliss needs to get cleaned up. And, so say a lot of prayers on that one. I am Vanessa's heartbreaking. Oh, yeah. Um, Absolutely heartbreaking. And that's why we can't give up, right? That's why we can't give up. Because, Enrique Roman Martinez is so heartbreaking for me, too. It's just like I just cry and cry when I think of that family, um, and what they're going through now, and what they have been going through, from uh, yeah, I just can't even imagine. And the same thing with Caleb Smither, the same thing with Austin Hawk, the same thing with Lavina Johnson, what they've gone through. It's because we know what we've gone through. You look at these pictures, these memories pop up. My mom sent me memories that popped up on her phone today. I posted those. She's like, "See, these memories are popping up," um, and I'm just crying. I'm just crying. So it's so heartbreaking, and so we know that 100% things like this cannot be prevented, but we can sure make a dent in that. And right now it's being fomented, right? It's the crime is just let they're letting it happen. They're making it happen with their lack of leadership. So yeah, uh, yeah, it's just the same as Richard Halliday's disappearance. Many heartbreaking situations and changes need to be done immediately. Immediately. Uh, Absolutely, 100%. And we can't do it in fear. We have to stand up to uh, to the narrative, right? We have to stand up to the narrative, and we need the free speech to do it. And that's why free speech is being attacked, because we need to, if I go out there and I say, okay, I want to do a Zoom on why I believe that Darwin's theory is trash, why I believe that the germ theory is trash, why I believe. Now, you don't have to join my Zoom. You don't have to. Um, but, I need to be able, and everyone else needs to be able, uh, to to have that free speech, to discuss things, because otherwise we can be misled about so many different um, fear mongering business plans and wars, bringing us into wars, and this hate mongering between peoples to keep us divided and not bring us together. Um, so um, that's why I like architecture and the star forts and the architecture, especially because the similar architectures all over the world. So at one point, we were pretty much in harmony. But I think they keep that information from us. But the architecture itself and the star forts absolutely prove that at one point we were living pretty much in harmony. Um, Otherwise, you wouldn't have that, right? So I don't know, just my thoughts there too, and all the people that have been helping us, and you see it. I should be doing other languages, but I've been translating it to Korean. That was the number one viewed. When I put up the oh no, it's a German translation. So it was the English, the Spanish, the Korean, and the German. The one that got the most views is the German translation. So I'm like, wow, okay, I didn't expect that. Of course, the English, um, and then the Korean, and then the Spanish translation, which I thought would get the most views, it got the least amount of views. So it is really interesting, um, the truth of how everything works, what you think and what is really happening. So um, maybe I should put some more languages, because what happens in Richard's case, the same thing would happen in Afghanistan, what happens around the world. It affects us all, and we need to fight for justice no matter where we're at. And the domino effect of that um, uh, goes to places that we can't even see. People are watching in places that we don't even know and we don't even see. And that is really amazing thought. So I just want to say thank you, everyone. And we do have a lot of things behind the scenes going on, but this week was really ground shaking. And Marlon Soto is a dirty agent. Leilani Hart is a convicted criminal. And we have enough evidence for a jury to convict Dallas Hart. I think that is, uh, and then I've been asked about Richard's remains, if that's just a ruse, and they didn't mean it in a bad way. They were, really asking an honest question, and because it is, how in the world could they keep your son's body from you? But that's the case. I am absolutely 100% convinced that they found Richard's remains, and they hid it from us, um, and tried to change the narrative of, to AWOL or whatever. And he was never that. He was murdered. Um, and absolutely, because of the PAO, because of the general's words, because of Nadal Baim's words, because of the State Department's words to us, because of the actions of other people involved in this. We've put it all together. I am absolutely 100% convinced that even a court would rule that Richard was murdered and his body parts were disposed of and hidden from us. Absolutely. So that is huge um, step forward, because I always thought, okay, maybe like 90% or 98%, or no, I'm 100% convinced. And you just have to do beyond a reasonable doubt, right? That's all you have to do. So now we're looking at the cases, and it's going to be moving 1,000 miles an hour. So if you think that these breaking news has been quick, it's going to be even more speedy. We're going to be moving at the speed of light. So thank you so much, everyone. God bless you. Pray. Um, and we will be back tomorrow, God willing. Bye bye.